Oh, you're here. Good. I've got another betrayal story for you. Sit down. I always thought blood was stronger than lies. But when my sister cried in front of our parents, they didn't even look at me. They just saw the villain she wanted me to be. My name is Jason. I'm 27 years old, and I've spent the better part of my life working in my father's business. Long days unloading pallets, managing orders, and keeping clients happy aren't glamorous, but they pay the bills. Living at home wasn't my dream, but it was practical. Every paycheck I saved put me closer to my own place, a life carved out by my own hands. My parents liked having me close, though sometimes I wonder if they saw me as reliable help more than as a son. Then there was Chloe, my younger sister, 24, who could set the whole house spinning with a single pout. She never worked long enough at one job to build a career, yet somehow she was always seen as a responsible one. Despite everything, I believe that when push came to shove, my parents would never side with her lies over my truth. That illusion cracked on a Tuesday evening. I came home exhausted, shirt damp with sweat, and streaked with dust from lifting lumber all day. The kitchen lights glared too bright, and the air felt thick the moment I stepped inside. My father sat rigid at the table, jaw tight, fists balled on the wood. My mother's lips pressed in, her eyes darting anywhere but at me, and Chloe sat between them, her head tilted just enough of the light to catch the tears trailing down her cheek. The silence clung to me like a noose. I opened my mouth to ask what was going on, but Chloe's voice cut through first. "I didn't want to say anything," she whispered, her throat hitching like she was holding back sobs. "But I can't watch him do this anymore." I saw Jason at the motel with a married woman. For a second, my mind went blank. Her words hung in the air, impossible, absurd. My dad's glare sharpened, and my mother gasped into her hand. I laughed once, sharp and disbelieving. "What? That's insane." Chloe's hands trembled as she pulled her phone from her pocket. She unlocked it, slid across the table to my father, her face twisted with rehearsed pain. My dad turned the screen toward me. It was my car, parked outside a seedy motel, license plate clear as day. A timestamp glowed in the corner. Late at night. My stomach dropped. She had my damn car. The night before, she'd asked to borrow my keys, saying she needed something from the trunk. I hadn't thought twice. Why would I? Now here it was, the setup staring me in the face. "That's my car, yeah," I said, forcing my voice steady. But I wasn't there. I didn't take it. "Then who did?" my dad growled, his tone more accusation than question. "You know who did?" I shot back, my eyes locked on Chloe. "You borrowed my keys. You took my car." Her mouth opened in shock, the perfect performance. "Why would I ever do that?" "Jason, I care about you. I didn't want to be the one to tell them, but you've gone too far. You're dragging this family's name through the mud. Ruin the family's name." That was her dagger. She said it like she wasn't the one sneaking out after midnight, her phone lighting up with messages from the man she thought nobody knew about. I'd noticed the smudged lipstick, the late returns, the perfume clinging to her clothes. I'd stayed quiet, convincing myself it wasn't my business. But now it was clear. She wasn't just lying to deflect suspicion. She was making me the scapegoat for her own affair. My dad shoved back on the table, the chair screeching across the tile. His voice boomed. "If this is true, if you've been sneaking around with some married woman, you're done at the business. You hear me? Done." My mom's eyes brimmed with tears, her voice trembling. "You're a disgrace. I raised you better than this." The words hit harder than any punch. Disgrace. Done. They weren't even asking questions. They weren't giving me the benefit of the doubt. Chloe had planted a lie, watered it with fake tears, and they let it bloom into the truth they wanted to believe. I stood frozen, fists clenched so hard my nails dug crescents into my palms. The urge to scream, to shake them and force the truth into their skulls, burned inside me. But then I looked at Chloe, really looked. Through the tears, through the fragile act, there was something else. A flicker of triumph. Satisfaction. She wasn't just covering her tracks. She was enjoying this. Watching me unravel while our parents turned their backs on me was her victory. That night ended with me storming out of the kitchen, but the damage was already done. The next day, I learned Chloe's lie wasn't just staying within our four walls. At the yard, people wouldn't meet my eyes. Normally, morning started with a round of greetings, a couple of guys cracking jokes about the load sheet, someone slapping my back and asking who was on delivery runs. That morning, silence followed me. Heads bent together. Voices dropped as soon as I passed. The whispers weren't hard to decode. Chloe hadn't wasted a second. I caught a glimpse of two employees huddled near the loading dock, their eyes flicking from their phones to me. One of them smirked like he'd just read a dirty punchline. My throat tightened. Chloe's lie had made it out of the kitchen and into the company that carried my family's name. I shoved the thought aside and went to my father's office. He didn't look up when I knocked, just barked for me to come in. Normally, mornings with him started with a run-through of orders, schedules, and a quick word about which clients needed extra smoothing over. Today, he barely glanced at me. "You'll be working the yard for the next few weeks," he said flatly, scribbling something on a ledger. "The yard?" I frowned. "Dad, I've been handling client accounts. I had 3 meetings lined up today." "Not anymore." He finally looked up, his jaw like stone. "Your sister showed me the proof. I won't have you representing this business. While you're out, they're destroying our family's reputation." My stomach dropped. "You can't be serious. You actually believe her?" She had evidence. His tone left no room for argument. "I don't care how you explain it. You'll keep your head down and work where clients don't have to see you." I wanted to argue, to slam my fist on his desk and force him to listen, but the anger in his eyes told me it was useless. To him, Chloe had already won. The yard work hit like a punishment. Sweat poured off me as I stacked boxes and strapped down deliveries. The same grunt work I thought I'd left behind years ago. Every time I looked up, I caught someone watching me with a smirk, like they knew something I didn't. My sister's poison had already spread too deep. By lunchtime, I'd had enough. I stormed across the yard. Found Chloe leaning against her car, scrolling her phone like she didn't have a care in the world. "You think this is funny?" I snapped. She looked up, her smile sharp. "Funny? No. Satisfying? Maybe. You set me up. You used my car. You staged that picture. And now you got Dad humiliating me in front of everyone. How far are you planning to take this?" Chloe tilted her head like she was studying a bug. "As far as I need to. The thing is, Jason, no one's going to believe you. Not Dad. Not Mom. Not the guys at work. I'm just the poor sister trying to protect the family." The smugness in her tone made me want to scream, but the calm way she delivered it made something else sink in. She believed every word she said. She'd built her lie into reality, and she was already living in it. I stood there, fists trembling at my sides, rage boiling with nowhere to go. She wasn't just trying to bury me. She was daring me to fight back, knowing I had nothing solid to use against her. Later that afternoon, Kyle found me hauling a load of lumber, sweat pouring down my face. He handed me a bottle of water and lowered his voice. "I don't buy it," he said. "I know you, Jason. That motel story? It stinks." Relief hit me harder than the water sliding down my throat. Finally, someone who doesn't think I'm the devil. Kyle glanced around, making sure no one else could hear. "But you've got a problem." Words already spreading. "A couple of clients called this morning, inquiring about whether you were still handling their accounts. If your dad thinks you're bad for business, he'll cut you loose." The pit in my stomach deepened. Chloe wasn't just sabotaging me at home. She was stripping me of everything. Work, reputation. Even friends I thought were steady were slipping away. Kyle clapped me on the shoulder. "You've got to get ahead of this. Find proof. something that shuts her down. Otherwise, she's going to bleed you dry. I nodded, but inside I was reeling. Proof. That was the word. Without it, I was already guilty. Chloe had built the perfect lie, and she knew it. And if I didn't find a way to break it, she wasn't just going to ruin me. She was going to erase me. The more I tried to ignore Chloe's games, the more cracks started showing in her perfect act. I just had to look closely enough. It started a few nights later. I was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind still circling the humiliation at work. Sleep didn't come easily anymore. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Chloe's smug grin and my father's disappointment. That's when I heard it, Chloe's voice, muffled but urgent, drifting down the hallway. I got up quietly, stepping closer to her room. Her tone was soft but sharp with panic. Not tonight. No, it's too risky. Okay, fine, but only for a few hours. Then the sound of drawers opening, clothes rustling. My gut tightened. She wasn't talking to a friend. Not at that hour, not in that voice. Minutes later, the front door clicked shut. I grabbed my jacket and followed at a distance, keeping to the shadows of the street. She drove like she'd done it 100 times before, straight to a dingy motel on the edge of town. My chest tightened when I saw the man waiting outside, Ryan. I knew him. He'd been a subcontractor for one of our jobs a year ago. Married. 2 kids. I remembered him bragging about his perfect family. At lunch breaks, flashing photos like a trophy. Now here he was, grinning nervously as Chloe slid into his arms. The realization slammed into me. The motel stunt wasn't random. She needed a cover story, a scapegoat, someone take the fall if questions started circling. And who better than me, the brother she'd been undermining for years? If anyone spotted her car at the motel, she could shrug it off. But my car, my reputation, that was her insurance policy. I watched them disappear inside, anger boiling in my veins. She hadn't just lied to our parents. She'd weaponized me to protect her affair. The next morning, I started paying closer attention. I wrote down every time she borrowed my car, no matter how small the excuse. Once it was picking up a package. Another time it was grabbing groceries. Each time, the clockwork pattern lined up with her late-night absences. Receipts started surfacing, too. One crumpled gas station slip in the glove compartment, time-stamped at 2:17 a.m. A receipt for takeout 2 towns over, a place I hadn't been in months. I tucked each one away in a folder in my room. Small pieces, but pieces all the same. Then there were the conversations I overheard when she slipped up. Once, she came back late and didn't realize I was awake in the living room. She whispered into her phone, "I told you, Jason won't be a problem." They already believed me. My chest clenched. She was confident, too confident. For days, I wrestled with the urge to march into the kitchen, slam the folder on the table, and demand my parents look at the evidence. But every time I imagined it, I saw Chloe's crocodile tears, her practiced gasp, the way my mother's heartstrings snapped at the sight. Without undeniable proof, photos, recordings, something irrefutable, she'd twist it again. She'd cry louder, point the finger harder, and I'd look desperate. That was the worst part. The waiting. Knowing the truth but being forced to hold it inside, choking on the weight of her lies. She thought she had me cornered, and maybe she was right. But I knew one thing. Cracks had formed in her perfect story. And if I was patient enough, those cracks would split wide open. And when they did, she wouldn't just fall. She'd crash. By the end of that week, Chloe wasn't satisfied with just ruining my standing at home. She was preparing to bury me completely. It started with Mom. She cornered me in the hallway, her face pale, her hands clasped tight like she was trying to keep herself steady. "Jason," she whispered, glancing toward Chloe's room. "You need to stop. Just let this go." "Let what go?" I asked, already knowing the answer. She swallowed hard. "Your jealousy." I know it's hard watching your sister succeed where you struggle, but these outbursts, these accusations, her voice trembled. Chloe says you're obsessed with her life, that you're trying to ruin her out of spite. My chest burned. Mom, she's lying to you. She's lying to both of you. She shook her head, tears threatening. I can't keep defending you to your father. Please, just stop causing trouble before it gets worse. It was like being punched and hugged at the same time. Her voice soft, her words a knife. She wasn't warning me for my sake. She was trying to preserve Chloe's story. The next blow came at work. My father, Martin, had always been rough around the edges, but until then, he treated me as the heir apparent to the business. Not anymore. That Friday morning, he called a meeting in the warehouse. Staff gathered, curious. I stood off to the side, sweat dampening my collar, waiting to see what this was about. My father cleared his throat, his voice booming across the room. From this day forward, he announced, Chloe will be handling all client accounts. Jason will focus on physical operations only. He's not fit to represent this company's name right now. A hush fell over the workers. My stomach lurched. I saw Kyle stiffen beside me, jaw tight, eyes wide with disbelief. A couple of employees smirked, and others exchanged knowing glances. Chloe stood near Dad, smiling like she'd just won an award. It wasn't just a demotion. It was a public execution of my credibility. I wanted to storm out, but before I could, my phone buzzed. A new message. Hey, it's Emily. I've noticed you around. Maybe we could meet sometime. I frowned. Emily? The name didn't ring a bell. Still, the messages kept coming, flirty, forward, like someone trying too hard to reel me in. Something about it stank, so I didn't reply. Hours later, Chloe strutted into Dad's office, her phone in hand, fake horror etched on her face. Dad, Mom, look at this. She showed them screenshots, messages I'd supposedly sent back, crude and desperate. Mom gasped. Dad's face darkened. Chloe shook her head, whispering about how she'd tried to protect me, how she didn't know I was this far gone. I realized it in that moment. Ryan, he was the one behind the text. Chloe's married boyfriend is playing the phantom Emily, baiting me into a trap I hadn't even stepped into. And Chloe didn't need my responses. She could fabricate those too. The fallout was instant. Word spread like wildfire among clients. A few pulled their contracts, whispering about how I was predatory, untrustworthy, a liability. The motel lie had already damaged me. This finished the job. I sat in my truck after work, my hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. It felt like I was being buried alive, one shovelful of lies at a time, and the harder I struggled, the deeper I sank. Then Kyle opened the passenger door and slid in. He looked at me for a long moment before speaking. You can't keep letting her run you over like this. I exhaled, the air shaking out of me. What am I supposed to do? She's got them all believing her. My dad, my mom, half the damn company, and now clients. Kyle leaned forward, his voice low and steady. Then stop playing defense. Start fighting back. She thinks she's untouchable, but people like her always slip. We just need to be ready when she does. I looked at him, my throat tight. Even if I catch her, they won't believe me. Not if you catch her red-handed, he said. With proof, no one can twist. Something shifted in me then. For weeks, I'd been drowning, clinging to the hope that the truth would float on its own. But Kyle was right. The truth didn't matter unless I forced it into the light. Chloe wanted me gone. She wanted me erased. If I didn't fight back, she'd succeed. But if I caught her, if I pulled the mask off in front of everyone, she'd finally choke on her own lies. And I was done waiting for her mercy. I couldn't let Chloe keep playing me like her personal scapegoat. If she wanted me to look guilty, then I needed her to step into her own lie. The idea started as a whisper in my mind, half born from anger, half from desperation. She had set me up once before, using my car as the weapon. If I were going to turn the tables, I had to make her believe she could do it again. This time, though, she wouldn't be the hunter. She'd be the prey. Kyle was the only person I trusted enough to let in on the plan. One evening after work, we sat in his garage surrounded by the smell of motor oil and the faint buzz of a dying fluorescent light. He leaned back on a stool, arms crossed, listening as I laid it out. "You want to bait her," he said slowly. "Make her think she's pulling the same stunt, but we'll be watching." "Exactly," I said. "She can't resist the opportunity. It's her go-to move. If I leave the keys lying around, if I act careless enough, she'll take them." Kyle tapped the edge of the workbench. Thinking, then we set up cameras. Car dash cam, motel lot. Even audio if we can swing it. If she shows up with Ryan, if she slips and says anything, boom, you've got her. For the first time in weeks, hope surged in my chest. Not blind, desperate hope, but something real. A plan. The next few days, I made sure Chloe saw me leave my keys on the counter, saw me toss them carelessly into my jacket pocket. I staged little acts of carelessness, just enough to make her think she could get away with another borrow. Kyle helped me prep. He wired a small camera near the dashboard, positioned another in his truck, so he could follow the distance, and even rigged a voice recorder that clipped under the seat. "This'll catch everything," he said, double-checking the battery life. "All we need is for her to bite." And she did. It was a Thursday night when Chloe sauntered into the kitchen, catching me just as I came back from work. She put on her sweetest smile, the one that used to melt my parents' hearts. "Jason," she said lightly, "can I borrow your car? I just need to pick something up from a friend. My car's acting up again." I kept my face blank, my voice flat. "Keys are on the counter." She blinked, maybe surprised at how easy it was, then scooped them up like she won a prize. "Thanks, big brother. I'll be quick." I waited until the front door shut, then looked at Kyle, who was already pulling up the tracking app on his phone. "She's moving," he said, his eyes narrowing. "Heading east." We followed at a distance, headlights dimmed. My heart pounded with every mile. If this worked, I'd finally have what I needed. If it didn't, I didn't want to think about that. Sure enough, Chloe pulled into the same motel she'd framed me with weeks earlier. Ryan was already there, pacing outside a room like a guilty teenager. She parked my car right in front, bold as ever. Kyle and I parked far enough away to stay hidden, but close enough for the camera to catch everything. Through the grainy lens, I watched Chloe step out, adjusting her jacket, her face lighting up as she walked straight into Ryan's arms. They kissed, quick and urgent, then slipped into the room. We waited. 10 minutes. 20. Then, through the recorder tucked under the seat, their voices bled through. "You need to stop panicking," Chloe hissed. "I can't keep lying to my wife like this," Ryan snapped. "She's getting suspicious." "Then let her," Chloe shot back. "I've already covered us. Jason's the one taking the fall. I made sure of it." The blood drained from my face. She said it. She admitted it out loud. Ryan groaned. "You don't understand. She's digging. If she finds out, it's not just me on the line." "Relax," Chloe said, her tone dripping with arrogance. "My parents already believe me. He's ruined. Nobody suspects us. Nobody will ever suspect us." My hands trembled around the recorder. Every word was there. Her confession, her plan, her motive. When Chloe finally left the motel, Kyle and I stayed put, let her get ahead. She drove back like nothing happened, tossing the keys on the counter with a casual thanks before vanishing upstairs. She didn't know that in her effort to bury me, she'd dug her own grave. Later that night, Kyle and I sat in his garage again, replaying the audio, watching the grainy video of Chloe and Ryan slipping into that motel room. Each second tightened the knot in my chest, not from doubt anymore, but from vindication. I finally had her. Kyle looked at me, his face grim. "This is it, man. She can't talk her way out of this." I nodded. but a strange calm settled over me. I didn't want to rush it, didn't want to storm into the kitchen and shove a recording in my parents' faces. No, this had to be precise, strategic. I wanted Chloe to feel invincible one last time before the floor caved in beneath her. So I waited. I went about my days, stacking boxes at the yard, biting my tongue when Dad barked orders at me, swallowing the bile when Mom avoided my eyes. Chloe grew bolder, walking through the house with her smug little smile, whispering into her phone at odd hours. She thought she had me beaten, but I had the truth, captured in her own voice. And when I revealed it, there would be no tears to save her, no performance to twist the story. The only thing left was choosing the right moment. And when it came, she'd never see it coming. She texted the family thread the following Sunday morning. Family dinner, 6 p.m. We need to talk about business changes. No emojis, no cushion. She wanted a stage and an audience. Perfect. All day I moved like a ghost around the yard, stacking pallets in the heat, pretending I didn't hear the whispers that had shadowed me for weeks. In my back pocket, my phone felt heavier than usual. Screen recordings of the motel lot, the audio of her bragging about framing me, the time stamps, the receipts. Evidence had weight. I'd learned. It made your clothes feel tighter. It made breathing easier. At 5:58 p.m., I parked outside my parents' house and sat with the engine off, watching sunlight peel away from the living room curtains. My hands were calm. That surprised me. Rage had kept me warm for weeks, but now all I felt was a clean, cold focus, the kind you get right before stepping into the ring. I walked in and found my father already at the head of the table, shoulders rigid, a glass of water sweating by his arm. My mother hovered between the kitchen and the dining room, setting out plates like she could assemble peace with forks and napkins. Chloe sat where she could see everyone, posture tall, a thin smile she couldn't contain. Jason, my father said, flat as concrete, "Sit." I did. I didn't speak. The ticking kitchen clock did it for me. Chloe cleared her throat, a little performative cough. "Thanks for coming," she began, palms folded like a moderator. "I know this is awkward, but we have to put the company first. Dad, you know I love Jason, but he's not stable lately. Clients have complained. Staff are uncomfortable. And after everything he's done, everything I've done," I asked softly. She didn't look at me. "I think we should make it official," she pressed on, meeting my father's eyes. "Remove him from the business completely. For the reputation of the family. For your sanity. For Mom." My mother inhaled sharply, but said nothing. My father's jaw worked. "Is that your motion?" he asked, like this was a board meeting and not our home. "Yes," she said. "It's time." Silence settled like dust. I felt it landing in my hair, on my shoulders, on the old cuts she'd carved into me. Then I nodded, like I finally agreed with her about something. "Okay," I said, calm as a closed door. "Before you vote on my life, I need you to hear something." Chloe's smile flickered. "We've heard enough." "Sit." My father snapped at me, but I was already reaching for my phone. I tapped play. First, I let the motel lot video roll, grainy, dashcam framing. My car pulling in, Chloe stepping out, Ryan meeting her at the door with a quick, intimate kiss. My father blinked. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. Chloe's voice went bright and brittle. "That's not. That could be anyone." "Keep watching," I said, and hit the second clip, a wider angle from Kyle's truck across the lot. Zoomed slow but clear enough. Chloe and Ryan disappearing into a room whose door number matched the motel receipt folded in my wallet. I laid the paper on the table and didn't look away from my father while he read the date and time. "There's more," I said, and opened the audio file. The real knife. Chloe's voice, angry and careless, filled the dining room. "You need to stop panicking. Ryan, I can't keep lying to my wife like this." Chloe, colder. "Relax. Jason's the one taking the fall. I made sure of it. The room stopped breathing. You could hear the refrigerator kick on. In the kitchen, I let the recording run. My parents already believe me. He's ruined. Nobody suspects us. Then let the silence after it dig its grave. My mother's chair scraped back. She stared at Chloe like she'd never seen her before. "Tell me that isn't your voice," she whispered. "Tell me that isn't you." Chloe's eyes skittered between faces, searching for the version of reality she used to command. "He edited that," she said, pointing at me, hand shaking. "You know Jason. He's vindictive." "Enough," I said, not loud, but the word cut. I slid a small stack of printed timestamps and phone location logs across to my father. Keys borrowed on these dates. Gas receipts at 2:17 a.m., 2 towns over. On the same night, my car was photographed. "You wanted proof? Dad, you're sitting in it." My father didn't look up for a long time. When he did, something in his face had shattered and was never going to be whole in the same shape again. He turned to Chloe. "What did you do?" he asked, the voice of a man who'd built his name board by board and just heard the termites laughing. Chloe tried to sob, the old faithful. "Dad, what did you do?" he said again, louder, and the sound that made my mother flinch. Chloe blinked, and for a second, I saw the creature under the mask, calculating, cornered. "He's lying," she said, aiming for one last miracle. "He's always hated me. He's obsessed." My mother shook her head like she was physically pushing the words away. Tears spilled. "Chloe, stop." She reached her phone, but her hand hovered in the air and fell, as if the evidence burned. My father slammed his palm on the table, rattling the glasses. "You framed your brother. You brought that man to a motel and used his family's name to cover it." His voice broke. "Do you know what you've done to our house?" "Dad," she started, but he was already standing. "I gave you authority in front of my staff," he said, like confessing a sin. "You took it and buried your brother with it." Chloe looked to my mother. "Mom!" But my mother was crying openly now. "He begged us to listen," she said to no one and everyone. "He begged us." Chloe shoved her chair back and stood. Anger raced up her neck. "You're all pathetic," she spat. "You never respected me until I started winning. I did what I had to. He," she jabbed a finger at me, "has always been the favorite. I just leveled the field." I almost laughed. Favorite. If this was what being loved looked like, no wonder I'd stopped recognizing it. My phone buzzed then, an unknown number. I glanced down. Thumb hovered, then answered without leaving the table. "Jason?" a woman's voice asked, tight as a wire. "Yes. This is Maya Hargrove," she said, Ryan's wife. The name landed like a gavel. I went very still. "How did you get my number?" "A mutual friend," she said. I could hear the controlled fury in her breath. "I know. About the motel, the messages. I know it isn't you. Someone sent me a clip," she exhaled, "of your sister and my husband. I'm outside your house." Every head snapped toward the front window. A car idle at the curb, hazards clicking like a metronome. "Come in," I said before anybody else could speak. I didn't want this, but I knew it needed to happen. The doorbell rang. My mother wiped her eyes with a napkin and went to open it. Maya stepped in, composed. In that way some people are when the dam is already burst and all that's left is current. She carried a manila envelope. She set it on the table next to my phone. "Photos," she said to my parents, her voice even. "Receipts. A copy of the room registration with his signature." She didn't look at me. She didn't need to. "I'm filing tomorrow." Chloe's bravado fractured. "You can't be here," she snapped. "This is our home. This is where you rehearse your lies," Maya said, eyes like glass. It seemed appropriate. My father leaned back, as if an invisible hand had finally let go of his throat. My mother sank into a chair. No one reached for Chloe. For the first time since it started, She stood alone without the scaffolding of our parents' belief propping her up. This is a setup. Chloe tried one last time, voice thinning. Jason doctored everything. No, I said, gently now, almost pitying. You did. Her shoulders collapsed. There it was. The moment the mask fell, and there was another one underneath, my father pushed back from the table and stood, palms flat on the wood. You're done, he said to Chloe. At the business. In this house. He looked to my mother, then back to me. Shame coloring his face. Until we figure out what to do with all of this. Chloe stared at him like he'd just spoken in a language she'd never heard. Then she kicked her chair aside and fled down the hallway. A storm without lightning. No one chased her. The room felt bigger and emptier at once. My mother reached me across the table, fingers trembling, but she stopped short, as if she didn't know if she had the right. Jason, she whispered, voice cracking. How do we fix this? I looked at her hand, then at my father, who couldn't quite meet my eyes. I thought of the weeks in the yard, the whispers, the demotion announced like a public sentencing. I thought of the first night Chloe lied, and how fast they chose a story over a son. You can't fix everything, I said. Some things you sit with, some things you learn from. Maya collected her envelope. At the door, she paused and spoke to me, not unkindly. Thank you, she said, for giving me the truth before it buried me too. I nodded. She left. The clock started ticking again, as if time had been holding its breath. I stood, pocketed my phone, and pushed my chair in carefully, as if the smallest noise would break something already shattered. I'm going to take a few days, I told my parents. My father finally forced himself to look at me. Son, Don't. I said, not cruel, not kind. Not tonight. I walked to the door. The hallway was empty. Chloe's bedroom light burned under her door like a warning. Outside, the air was cool, the kind that arrives after storm and makes you feel like the world's been hosed down. I stood on the porch and let it wash the sawdust out of my lungs. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel like a winner. The truth was out, and that meant the ground under my feet was finally solid, even if it wasn't the ground I grew up on. I got in my truck, started the engine, and didn't look back. Hey, was Jason right to set the trap and wait? Or should he have confronted Chloe the moment he suspected the affair? And if your own sibling tried to wreck your name, would you go nuclear or walk away? Drop your take in the comments. And if you're into messy, real-deal betrayal stories, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one.